Genetically progressive radio station. KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Tavis Smiley. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Our phone number, 1-800-920-1580, 1-800-920-1580. So glad to have you with us in this hour. We go from Michael Steele in hour one, as I said, to Michael T. Smith in this hour. Some years ago, Michael T. Smith gave a stirring and powerful TED Talk. The lecture was actually entitled "Black Murder is Normal." But what Smith really honed in on is the hypocrisy baked into American culture, the ways in which the contestation of black dignity and black humanity would not be tolerated in any other community. So much has happened in this country since that TED Talk, which continues to circulate on social media. Hypocrisy in real time, and trust me, there are plenty of examples. Before we commence our conversation in this hour, I want you to sit back for a second and listen to a bit of this TED Talk by Michael T. Smith, and after that, we will come forward with our conversation.
But we do have black people that get on the radio every day in white-owned companies, white-owned stations with white-owned sponsors that play the role of hypersexualized, hypercriminalized male. I ask these advertisers, I say, I've got hundreds of songs a day that celebrate killing animals. Will you put them on your station? They said, no. I've got hundreds of songs a day that talk about assaulting women and abusing kids. Would you put them on your station? They said, no. I said, I've got hundreds of songs a day that talk about murdering blacks. Would you put them on your stations? They said, well, that depends. Depends on what? Who it's done by and who it's branded for. Because if we can get black folks to sing about it, we can brand it for our youngest black audiences, I think there's money to be made. I think there's American appetites to see these people that way. I said, how can you say that? They said, well, look, it's what these artists know. It's what they, black people, create. It's, matter of fact, our surveys say it's what they want to hear, which speaks of a sickness. How do we live in a society where somebody says, you know what, I'm in a person says, I'd like to put that on my station. Another person said, I'd like to pay for it. And then there's people out here in the audience that go, I'd love to hear it, as long as it's black guys. Because even white people buy rap music, buy this type of stuff, because we know that when we want to hear about killing each other, we know who to turn to for that type of inspiration. We call it our music. We say we own it. White people buy more rap than black people. Yeah, but we're very careful to turn it down at the stoplight when other black people are there. Why? Because we know we're just pretending. For them, it's more authentic and real. I always ask the companies, what about your name? What about your brand? What about your value? And the largest radio company in the world said this: it's okay that we only have drug dealers on our black youth stations. We only have murders on our black youth stations. We support black charities. We give out water at the Martin Luther King parade. I think we've got it covered. We've bought them off. Now, people get upset, the smartest guys in the room again. You're talking about censorship. I don't believe that. I believe in free art. Make whatever you want. I believe you should make music about anti-Semitism. I believe you should make music about killing dogs. I believe in this country you should make music about bashing homosexuals and driving them behind trucks. I believe you should make music about stringing people up on trees. I believe you should make music about killing whitey. I believe you should make all that music. But I also believe that in the mainstream marketplace, people should hesitate associating their name with certain content. You know, there's certain stuff you can't buy at the store. Certain stuff you can't get on iTunes because their brand doesn't want it. But if you want to hear black people celebrating killing black people, they got and thousands of those things to sell you. I don't think it's about censorship. I think it's about American cultural hypocrisy. Because here's the truth. These black entertainers, they can't sing just about anything. There's some stuff that'll get them fired. And they get dropped, and they get fired, and they get slapped on the wrist, and they get disciplined all the time. Why? Because sometimes they step over the bounds. A very famous case is what happened with Rick Ross. Rick Ross is the Mammy Two Shoes, one of the many Mammy Two Shoes of our day. He's a black entertainer in a world carved out for him, and a role carved out for him by white entertainment companies. And one day he talked about, in the middle of a song that celebrated celebrated dealing drugs and killing blacks, he made a reference to date rape. And when he made that reference to date rape, that set social media on fire. That got 100,000 petitions in 24 hours. Hey, buddy, date rape is no joke. That had white people standing outside of Reebok in New York saying, you better take this seriously. We're tired of a rape culture in America. One line in one song moved the masses. And you know what Reebok did? Did they stand by him and say, hey, we believe in freedom of speech. We believe in freedom of expression. It's just a song. Calm down. The spot. The president came out and said, this goes against our high standards. He's gone against the values of our brand. Shame on Rick Ross. We're disappointed. He doesn't know how serious date rape is. And when I saw that, I thought, wow, how convenient. Isn't that amazing? But here's what really happened. It's not their brand. It's not their values. Rick Ross went off script. He was hired to get black customers, and they think that black customers go with black bait. And in America, black bait is the hyper-criminalized, hypersexualized portrayal of black people. And as long as he had sung about that, the stuff that got him hired, he still had a job at Reebok. But when he touched other sensitivities that affect us, he lost his job. See, the truth is, it's not they that need to change. It's we that need to change. We created the lies. We created them for our profit. We own the companies. We own the record labels. We own the advertisers, and we keep putting it out. And it's this that's got to change. I thought about it. You know what? I wonder if White Mike could get anybody's attention on this. So I stood outside of a Walmart, and I blacks is very cool. And you know what? It only took 7 weeks of Mike standing out there, and they wrote a letter and said, yeah, we don't think it's cool either. We're going to pull our name off of that. The largest retailer in the world had never considered that maybe their commercial shouldn't be right before or after a song about young black men being gunned down. And I realized this, that black murder is normal, but it should not be. And I realized the importance at the coffee table, at every headline, every pastor's gathering, every family gathering to say, you know what, these black lives matter. It's not just another black kid. These are human beings. I'm doing my best in every way, shape, and form. Talks like this everywhere I can go to say, you know what, I was born in a world where black murder was normal. My kids were born into a world where black murder is normal, but I don't want to die in a world where black murder is normal. Am I 5 years or 10 years away? I don't know, but I'm screaming as high as I can. Let's feel this pain, and let's lift our voice to tell the lies. They are not criminals. They are not deviants, and their lives are just as important as ours. Thank you very much.
When we come forward, a conversation in real time with Michael T. Smith on KBLA Talk 1580.
Be sure to like and follow Tavis Smiley at The Real Tavis Smiley and get Twitter updates at Tavis Smiley. The conversation continues when we come forward. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Maisha Kyber here for JP Morgan Chase's Advancing Black Wealth Tour, where KBLA's very own Lynn Richardson was a keynote speaker. Here's what Lynn had to say when asked what the top 3 tips were for someone beginning their journey to financial freedom.
The first one would definitely absolutely be to write what it is. Broke down under the ground, didn't know how I was going to make it, are happening today, and they're actually bigger than I ever thought. The dreams that I had, it didn't seem possible, but I had the wherewithal to write it. Thoughts disentangle themselves when they pass through your fingertips, so when you see what it is that you want, it becomes more real. The second thing is to speak what you seek until you see what you say. Get rid of haters, naysayers, blockers, and crab barrel leg pullers. Don't get mad at them, just detach and find your crew. And the third thing is to get started at JP Morgan Chase and get all of those accounts that you need to save, to spend, and to pay your bills.
Are you tired of feeling like the legal system is unfair to certain communities? I know I am. I'm Elizabeth Lashley Haynes, and that's why I'm running for judge. I want to bring fairness and equality to the judicial bench in LA County.
Vote for my wife. She won't stand for injustice in our home or in the courtroom.
November 8th, vote Lashley Haynes for judge, seat 67, and vote justice for all.
Paid for by Lashley Haynes for Judge 2022.
Did you know fixing outdoor leaks can save 27 to 90 gallons of water per day? Even tiny leaks can be huge water wasters. Conserving water starts at home and in your yard, like adjusting your sprinklers and adding drip irrigation so you water only where it's needed. We can all do our part to conserve water. Visit SaveOurWater.com for more water-saving tips. Save water, save California.
Will they find a home? Sponsored by Geico. Steve is intrigued by the paranormal.
Otherworldly spirits really make a house a home, you know?
Janice has different taste.
I'd like my house to not be haunted.
Compromise is tough, but these two won't have to compromise when they bundle home and car insurance with Geico. It's easy, and they could save even more. In the end, Steve and Janice found a renovated Victorian that's only haunted from 9 to 5.
Okay, wife's home. You're gonna bounce.
Bye, Steve.
Bundling without compromise at Geico.com.
Sparkly and shiny and bold and bright. And this holiday season, Ulta Beauty has something for everyone on your list, even you. Because our kind of holiday is you having your kind of holiday with incredible must-haves like the Dyson hairdryer and a new limited edition blue, shimmery palettes from Morphe and Tarte, plus fragrances from Ariana Grande and more. So revel in that holiday bliss. Head to your local Ulta Beauty or buy online and pick up in store. Ulta Beauty. The possibilities are beautiful.
Let's unpack a little bit more with Tavis Smiley. The conversation continues.
Smith, good to have you on this program, sir. How are you today?
I am wonderful. It is an absolute joy, Tavis. Great to be with you.
It's an honor to have you on the program. When you hear what you laid down some time ago, and you look at where America is today on the issues that you were raising, again, for the audience, the lecture was entitled Black Murder is Normal. As I said, I think what you really honed in on, Michael Smith, is the hypocrisy that is baked into American culture. You tapped into the ways in which the contestation of black dignity and black humanity would not be tolerated in any other community. That's how I received what you were offering that day. That's how I was picking up what you were putting down, as we say. But when you hear it sometime later, how do you process where we are today or where we are not today?
I was listening to it. The recording was done in 2014. They released it online in 2015. I keep waiting to wake up in a world and in America where the talk would not be relevant. It's when I was invited to do the talk, I was contacted by a guy, a brilliant producer and writer named Al Letson, did a lot of work with NPR, with PBS, and he said, hey, you might want to do this. And I was so nervous. This is how sad this is. I was so nervous when I agreed to do the talk in 2013 that by the time when it rolled around, my topic wouldn't be relevant. And now it's to tears to think that 8 years on, every 6 months or so, there's a resurgence. I think between clips shared, I think it was 2 million views in 24 hours after Takeoff was killed just a couple of days ago. And it's this ongoing thing. I want to wake up where it's not relevant, but sadly, it still sticks. It doesn't feel dated. I'm in that same America. So it's
What does that say to you about the state of our union? This is Election Day, of course. What does that say to you that it is as relevant now as it was some time ago? And again, after the murder of Takeoff from the Migos, it picks up millions of more downloads. What's that say to you about the state of our union here on Election Day?
That we're not really dealing with the problem. I mean, we have very little self-honesty, and I think it takes discrimination takes an active hand, prejudice takes an active mind, but racism thrives on inaction. And the fact that this stuff still goes on, that the content of the music, which I'm not talking causation, I'm just saying it reflects a general apathy. I think it reflects this kind of we're so convinced that this is the normal order of operations that we lack the moral energy to confront it. So, I think we're talking over each other, we're talking past each other. I think on both sides, specifically on the left, I'm hearing about some of the resistance from black male voters, maybe not as keen on Stacey Abrams and all these other kind of things. And I think that people are just saying, we keep going along with it, but we don't see change. And so they're kind of turned off by politics, turned off by promises, and I feel like we're losing hope. And then I think you see some of the other headlines that are going on with, some things going on with Kyrie, some things going on with Kanye, that people are lashing out, trying to figure out a solution, trying to deal with the root indignity, but we keep passing over it. And, and I heard a little bit of what you had with Brother Steele, and then there's this kind of whitewashing of everything, this kind of denial of the deep, deep entrenched dysfunction that's met with opposite dysfunction. And I try not to get discouraged. But I have to tell you, I wake up every day realizing, I could leave this alone, and me and my white family and me and my white kids would be okay. But my God, I'm really not even talking to anybody else except for white people like me saying, wake up to this deep, deep sickness.
We'll come to Kyrie and Kanye in this hour. I'm glad I've got you for the hour, so we got some time to unpack some of these things. But you said a moment ago, Michael T. Smith, that you sense a general apathy on the part of whom?
Well, I think going back to the idea, it is election day, and I look at the two-party system. I think voters are looking for more and more purple. I think we've kind of gotten into, from 2016, 2020, this dark red, dark blue on kind of both a political and a cultural side. And I think there's a lot of people that wish Obama could go on, for another 17 elections, because it kind of represented maybe the end of an old dysfunction. And then I think the extreme dysfunction that we saw come out in 2016, 2020, I'm not sure how much Biden-Harris represents a strong forward future so much as it does a more familiar degree of insanity than what happened kind of under this Trump delusion, largely supported, this is my opinion, by kind of a Christian delusion. It's kind of a religious dysfunction that's leading and feeding this political dysfunction. So as I look at the largest group of voters in the country still is church voters, I'm trying to figure out how do I get people in Joel Osteen's church and people in T.D. Jakes' church to strive for the same political goals. And right now, you think 11 a.m. on Sunday morning is divided racially in churches. Voting Tuesday is divided as well. So kind of this largest voting bloc, these people are supposed to be persuaded about their lives on the person of Christ. And, man, they're going in two completely different directions. And the fact that so much of the 2016-2020 dysfunction is perpetuated by this kind of anti-Christ nationalist Christianity. I think people are, like you said, maybe we'll get to Kyrie, maybe we'll get to Kanye, people are throwing it all off pictures in places other than where we've been historically lied to and played with.
That's a mouthful there. Let me pick a couple of things out that you just said and advance this conversation a little farther. I want to start with this notion of religious dysfunction that you pointed out, and I love the analogy that you made. You've got two of the biggest mega preachers, mega pastors in this country, T.D. Jakes, Joel Osteen, both in Texas for what it's worth, one in Houston, one in Dallas for what that's worth. But you got these two mega preachers, one black, one white, and to your point, it's pretty clear that Joel Osteen's congregation is voting one way, T.D. Jakes' congregation probably voting another way. There is some religious dysfunction here. Unpack that a bit more for me.
Yeah, so I pastored for 30 years. I've since stepped down pastoring. I'm doing different work now. This is the religious worldview we've inherited. And I know this is off topic, but transactional religion, conditional religion, it's these false ideas of religion that God has this small righteous us who is always at war against this large defiled and defiling evil them, and that's the way to put teeth to religion. And so we're 20 years removed from that idea. Instead of what's universal or cosmic or transcosmic or even transcosmic, we're down to this regional cultural. This comes kind of this idea of American exceptionalism. I'm not sure who co-opted whom first, but part and parcel of this American religious idea is that there's a righteous we whose job it is, even if it means dehumanizing them in the interim, in the temporal, to save them eternally, and it justifies everything. It justifies bombing, it justifies war, it justifies chattel slavery, etc. So carrying this forward, you now have African-American churches, of which, my spiritual father is Creflo Dollar. He raised me since I was a teenager. Taught me, living on Old National Highway, College Park, Georgia, this all-white kid, for 3 or 4 square miles, and this white kid in an all-black neighborhood for 3 or 4 square miles. I kind of cut my teeth leaving my all-white world saying, wow, in my all-white religious world coming to this all-black religious world, it's two different gospels. It's two different ideas of humanity, two different ideas of righteousness. But that kind of white idea of Christianity, which is an antichrist form of Christianity. It focuses on nationalism and tribalism and all of its roots, but it does not focus on the universal affirming dignity as expressed by Christ. That is the core dysfunction. I think with President Obama, and again, peace be unto him, I love President Obama. To me, there's few things more ironic than the things that President Obama ran into with his kind of prophetic rearings, and when he stepped onto the national stage, and some of the fallout with Jeremiah Wright, and him having to at least publicly distance himself, juxtaposition with Trump, who I don't see any pastoral, any Christian inclination, etc., falling headlong into these anti-Christ prophetic traditions. And I think I look at a 2008 to 2016, and I go, man, where was Jeremiah Wright in President Obama's ear saying, look, man, go for it, name the offenses, and we can talk about that. And then I see these people in Trump's ear saying the most same things, and he's like, sounds good, I'll do it. And it's just like, man, and again, I know that's not the topic, but at the root of all of this, it's at the root of our foundation, as a nation. The idea that all men are created equal. It's supposed to be self-evident, but if there's a false religious concept standing in your way, you'll fast forward 250 years, we are still in that blindness of a fully realized, fully equality for Black Americans, for LGBTQ Americans, on and on and on, for indigenous people, and it's still rooted in that anti-Christ dysfunction. So that I think is because Christians, even though the nuns are growing, Christians are still the largest voting bloc, but their core transactional dysfunction perpetuates this kind of racial national dysfunction and rinse and repeat. And I think 2024 is coming, and if we don't, like Brother Steele was saying earlier, the only way we're going to overcome this four-party insanity, I think, is by a significant purple third party to move us forward.
No, you're not off topic at all, first of all. I appreciate and respect the pivot. I like the pivot. And as you pivoted, you were pushing me and pushing the audience and making us think. I never processed it in that way, which is why I love doing this show every day. You were right about the fact that Obama had to distance himself. I mean, had to really, not just distance, he had to put down like he was a horse. He had to put down Jeremiah Wright, as you well know. Trump, on the other hand, gets embraced by these fanatics, and I hear that distinction. It's a powerful distinction you've made about the way that Trump is embraced by these, again, religious fanatics on the one hand, and Obama has to give the Heisman, if you will. Since you're in Atlanta and Herschel Walker's running for Senate, Obama has to give the Heisman to Jeremiah Wright. I take your point. I digress on that. Earlier, you raised this issue of moral energy. I like that phrase, moral energy. And I'm wondering whether or not you think that we lack the moral energy in this moment to address this American hypocrisy, again, that's baked into our system. Do we lack the moral energy to do it? Put another way, do we have fight fatigue right about now?
Yes, I would say so. Jordan Davis was murdered just literally a mile from my home. I was pastoring in Jacksonville. I stepped down, left my church in Jacksonville. Connie and I, my wife and I, moved to Atlanta and said, okay, we just need to reset because we can't. When you see the silent part of traditional Christianity and you start saying that silent part out loud, you realize its kind of core indignity and really how far it is from the person of Christ. I encountered all sorts of blowback in Jacksonville. I taught on racism. I lost 300 or 400 people. I taught on Israel and the dignity of Palestinians and Arabs. I lost another 300 or 400 people. So I was battle weary, and I kept thinking, okay, do I want to bring this pain into my life? I spoke out and things in radio and things in politics and was, facing lawsuits and things that, do I need this drama? Anyway, living in Jacksonville a mile from my house, that I filled my car tank up with every week or every other week. And I was sitting in an Applebee's, not an Applebee's, a Ruby Tuesdays a week later. And as a matter of fact, I was contacted, Tavis, by the defense counsel, knowing my work on systemic racism and music. Michael Dunn's defense counsel contacted me, and they thought, hey, we'll use you as an expert witness in this research to kind of say, the music is the problem. And after a 10-minute conversation, they were like, okay, you are not our witness. I was never called again. But we misunderstood the article, that kind of deal. And But I was listening to these people in this booth at Ruby Tuesdays, and there's these two ladies, elderly white ladies, and they were saying, I don't know what the deal is. I don't know why they sing that music. I don't know why they're that way. I just don't think it's fair to punish this guy who told him to turn it down or whatever. And when I heard the word they, I realized that it was not just a battle weariness on the right side to scream for a fully realized dignity and equality for black people in America, which we are yet lacking. We've never had. There's no romanticized. I mean, it's impossible to have something more tone deaf than Make America Great. When I realized that not only was I getting weary, and my fight is not for survival. You know, again, I could quit tomorrow, and me and my white family would do okay. You know, my fight is probably, Tavis, if I'm being honest, I don't know if I've ever said this, it brings tears to my eyes, I've got to be careful, but my fight is partly out of debt. Because when I moved as a little white kid to this all-black congregation, I was treated like family. Creflo and Taffy Dollar took me in like family. They loved me like a son. These people celebrated me in that congregation. I think back to 30 years ago, my little white face preaching in this huge black congregation and the way they love me. And I can remove myself from Old National Highway, but I cannot remove myself from the indignity, from the debt of honor that I owe. So maybe that's a part of it. But I realized not only was I getting weary, as many are, but this is not survival for me. This is what I would call love or justice or whatever righteous thing I can assign to it. But it's also debt. But when I heard those ladies in Ruby Tuesdays talking, I realized they're building anti-dignity energy. When you say, I don't know why they kill each other, I don't know why they make that, they're now removing any sort of responsibility. Yes, on the concept of, whoever killed Takeoff, whoever killed P&B. I mean, we know individual accountability, but I find on the other side there's an aggression towards removing any social responsibility. There's a weariness on the side to fight for what's right. I think there's a building of momentum to dismiss the moral requisite. I don't know if I'm making sense or what I'm saying.
No, you're making sense, all kind of sense, dollars and cents, and I appreciate it. You got my mind moving as fast as your mouth is moving, and I can't wait to get on the other side of news, traffic, and sports. There's a great deal more to talk about. Our guest in this hour is Michael T. Smith. Woo! It's getting rich around here. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
We may be LA's newest talk station, but when you're punching above your weight, it's not about whether you can throw a punch. Can you take a punch? We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. And we don't black down.
I'm Mike Moore, and here's the latest from the Black Information Network. In Mississippi, Governor Tate Reeves is denying recent claims that the state has refused requests from the mostly black-populated city of Jackson for federal water infrastructure funds. In an 11-page letter sent to U.S. Representatives African-American Benny Thompson and Carolyn Maloney, Reeves said that the state has approved every application for loans under the Mississippi State Revolving Loan Fund. Now some weather concerns. Parts of Florida's East Coast are under a hurricane warning due to Tropical Storm Nicole. The National Hurricane Center says Boca Raton is one of the cities under the warning. The storm is currently about 460 miles east of West Palm Beach and is moving at about 9 miles per hour. It has sustained winds of 50 miles an hour. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore. The Black Information Network and VINnews.com.
Trying to wrap up trouble as you travel industry on our 60 west at the 605. A crash now cleared, but right around Azusa Avenue are on and off the brakes here. 60 west at the 57. Two of your right lanes are blocked with a collision, loaded up from Phillips Ranch Road. Chino, 60 west at the 71. Two right lanes blocked here with a busy drive from Reservoir. 110 south, Avenue 60 towards Via Marisol. All traffic lanes shut down there with a busy drive from Glen Arm. That's because of roadway flooding.
Game day or any night, order Stonefire Grill's famous tri-tip baby-back ribs or grilled salmon, paired with garlic mashed potatoes or barbecue chopped salad. Now 13 Stonefire Grill locations to serve you. Get pickup or delivery at their newest location in Old Town, Pasadena. StonefireGrill.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
This is the news Clippers fans did not want to hear. Clippers coach Tyronn Lue said Kawhi Leonard will be out indefinitely. Leonard is having setbacks while recovering from ACL surgery on his right knee in July 2021. The Clippers outscored Cleveland 21-6 in the final 4 minutes last night to cap a comeback win. 119-117 was the final, 26 for Paul George. The Lakers are now 2-8 after losing by 23 at Utah. There are no NBA games on the schedule tonight. The league wants fans and players to focus on Make sure you follow the NBA's game plan. A lot of brave people back in the day fought and died to give us the right to vote. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. This sports report was brought to you by MVP Accident Attorneys. When it comes to your settlement, we're slam dunk. Call 833-MVP-WINS or check their website at themvp.com for a free case review.
When you're the victim of a car accident, hiring the right law firm can be the difference between a rewarding settlement and striking out. Call the pros at MVP Accident Attorneys at 833-MVP-WINS for your free consultation.
Call me your MVP.
I am Raina Creel. I will bring fresh ideas, representation, transparency, and accountability. As the new mayor of Inglewood, I believe we the people have the tools, experience, determination, and courage to promote our vision for our community. I, Raina Carrillo, will focus on a better community, advocate for Inglewood School District, public safety, and the houseless. I would like to improve on public services and inclusive economic recovery and support small businesses. Driven by faith, a dedicated wife and mother, and the love of my community. As a mayor candidate, I'm a candidate for the people. Vote for me. Invest in the future of Inglewood. Raina Carrillo for mayor, paid by Raina Carrillo for Inglewood Mayor 2022.
Hi, I'm Sedarius Blaine, actor from the Jumanji movies, The Big Leap on Fox, Charmed, and more. I started an all-inclusive luxury travel club called Top Shelf Getaways that's now visited 14 countries in the last 2 years and counting. Now, we're rolling out our local staycations so you can experience the excitement and spirit of adventure that we're known for right here in Southern California. Starting November 11th, come join us for a celebration of excellence as we honor some of Hollywood's biggest legends at the W Hotel in Hollywood, California. Our staycation will feature live performers, singers, magicians, mixologists, and private chef, as well as a private screening of Black Panther Wakanda Forever at the world-famous TCL Chinese Theater and an after-party. Transportation from the hotel and overnight stay at the W are included. November 12th will be our bottomless brunch pool party sponsored by El Cristiano Tequila. All of this for only $500 per person, $800 per couple, or select the locals rate to indulge in Friday night only. Follow us on Instagram or visit TopShelfGetaways.com to secure your tickets today. We can't wait to see you. And don't forget to wear your all-black cocktail attire.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where hate loses and love wins.
Our guest in this hour is Michael T. Smith. He gave a lecture talk, in fact, called Black Murder is Normal. As I said already, what jumped out at me in that conversation was the way he really put his finger on the fact that the contestation of black life, black humanity, black dignity that is, would not be tolerated in any other community. And so because of the nature of his talk in the past few months with the murders of some major hip-hop stars, including Takeoff, PNB Rock here at Roscoe's, Takeoff in Houston, of the Migos. This conversation is back in the zeitgeist, if you will, and I thought I would check in with Michael T. Smith to see what he makes of the fact that people are going back to this TED Talk called Black Murder is Normal, and all kinds of conversations are jumping off as a result of that. I thought I would go straight to the source, and I'm honored that he received my phone call and agreed to come on this program for an hour today. And the fact that we're talking on Election Day with the divisive nature of our politics makes it all the more rich, I think. He's made some references to this being Election Day, so I hope that you are enjoying this conversation and being downloaded in the ways that I am. And I thank, again, Michael T. Smith for the time he's given us. Michael, I during the break at the bottom of the hour, we get about a 6-minute break, the only break I really get of any major time in our conversations. And oftentimes during that 6-minute break for news, traffic, sports, and et cetera, I check into our social media, I check on my phone, and as I suspected, things are blowing up around here because of what you were saying. Blowing up in a good way. People are enjoying the conversation in a good way. But one of the things that I see repeatedly in responses to our conversation is what does not surprise me, I should say, is that people have been listening to us for about 37 minutes now, and they were waiting for that moment to figure out how did this white boy get to be so conscious? And the minute you drop the reference to Creflo Dollar, we get it. And people are saying in a variety of ways, that's it. Now we understand how he came to respect, how he has come in his life to respect and to revel and to celebrate the dignity and the humanity of black people. We get it. You were mentored by a black man. You were mentored by a black woman, which raises the obvious question. Is it your sense, your belief, that for other white fellow citizens like yourself to really respect and revel in the humanity and dignity of black people, that they too have to have a black mentor?
Yeah, they have to be touched in some way. I think, again, not to, digress into religion, but to me, that's the whole point of Christ, as a concept. We won't talk history, we won't talk person, but the idea that when you come face to face with the other, you're supposed to see yourself in the other and the other in yourself. Mm-hmm. And, one of my other TED Talks, I was actually invited back from another TED organization, and my second talk was called Why I Stopped Saying the N-Word. Mm-hmm. The N-word as a construct is so deeply ingrained subconsciously into white minds, even if we're forbidden from saying the word. The core persuasion of the otherness, of the theyness of black Americans is something that is absorbed environmentally, like nicotine stains left behind on apartment walls when the tenants move out. That yellow is there, and you didn't even realize it was going there until you moved the pictures. It's deep inside. So for me, I made a joke recently about I made the mistake of I saw my spiritual father. He was getting a haircut, and I reached over and kissed him on the top of his head right after a tape up. And man, it was my first mustache right across my left. What the world, So there's a learning curve. There's an exposure, a process of discomfort whereby you have to overcome your programming to realize the full dignity and equality. And I forget what the statistics are. I read it not too long ago. I think it's that 80% of white Americans do not have a black close friend. So I'm trying to figure out how can we fully get to the place of seeing a mirror in the other with those type of statistics. And I don't know if art is enough. I don't know if you can have enough quote-unquote good role models. I don't think you can have that. I don't think you can put on actors and actresses, which we've tried. Oh, I think that certainly helps. But at some point, somebody white has to seeded ugliness that most of us carry. And I'll say nearly all of us carry. And after I gave that TED Talk on why I stopped saying the N-word, several people in the organization pulled me aside, whispered in my ear, grabbed my hand like, hey, you were talking to me. I know those exact feelings. I absorbed that exact same negative energy overtly, covertly, consciously, subconsciously. So I have an unfair advantage, but I think that also gives me an added responsibility. I had two black people, a family of black people, take me in their home and love me as their own to this day. That is my spiritual father, my spiritual mother. I have wept with them, and I love them to my core. So I have an advantage that most white people will never get. But I think I have a responsibility that if you can't hold up the mirror of empathy through fully realized humanity interactions, then maybe I have to hold up the mirror of that dark subconscious that rests in that absorbed racial superiority idea.
Yeah. The one we're talking about today, black murder, is normal. How have you processed, from the vantage point of American hypocrisy, again, baked into our culture, how have you processed the Kyrie situation? How have you processed the Kanye situation? You can link them if you want. We'll take them one at a time. Let's start with the most recent one, Kyrie.
Yeah, so I am not a fan of any religious concept that brings us towards a narrower view. So you can argue Hebrews to Negroes, you can argue 3%ers, you can argue those ideas, and I'm certainly not. I mean, that's a totally different debate. Mm-hmm. From my perspective, I always try to. I was always taught anger is a secondary emotion. Whenever you hear anger, listen for fear. And I think that beneath the anger, beneath the backlash, what is the fear? I think Kyrie and the comments that he's making or not making, or the kowtowing that he's done, or maybe it hasn't been done the right way, or maybe there's ulterior motives that his comments and his retraction or his partial retraction, maybe there can't even be ever enough retraction, I don't know, but maybe there are other things being accomplished by saying too little too late, that I don't know. But I do understand that the opposite of dysfunction is dysfunction, and that if you're presented a national and religious narrative that by design makes you relegate you to hind teat as far as et cetera. I mean, to me, Black Lives Matter is a dysfunctional phrase. To me, the idea of Negroes to Hebrews is a dysfunctional concept, but it's not dysfunctional in a vacuum. It's dysfunctional because of the dysfunctional world in which it was put forth. Apparently, wearing a board that says "I am a man" is not enough. It's not enough to say "I am you," so I've got to come with something that sets myself up. To me, it's the selective nature in which those in the power structure choose to identify that dysfunction. Well, Kyrie, you can't say that, or Black Lives Matter. What about other lives? We cherry pick that without the respect for what has brought that about. And if Kyrie is looking at a world in which he feels the history of the world has taken away his dignity, made him an afterthought, made his bloodline an afterthought or secondary, and he finds in it a worldview that says, hey, maybe you're not secondary, maybe you're primary. I can't fault a man for craving that identification or for even commenting on openness to understand the dysfunctional world that temptation for that identification comes from. But again, it doesn't matter to me if at the end of the day it's Jew, black, white, whatever. If it puts us in any form of righteous us and unrighteous them, we're missing the point of any true concept of religion, etc. So that's my short version on that.
Right. That's Kyrie. When we come forward, we'll get your take on Kanye, because again, we're talking about hypocrisy in this country, and the ways in which some people are treated and others are maltreated, the ways in which some things are tolerated in certain communities, not tolerated in other communities, and the ways in which we are made to kowtow and to bend down and to apologize and to atone in ways that others would not be in similar situations. Our guest in this hour is Michael T. Smith. More with him when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about. Good thing we've got 3 hours. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
It's the holiday season. Maisha Cairo here with your K-Black Minute News. Some things to look forward to this holiday season. Whitney fans, Whitney Houston's estate to release fragrance in her honor, reportedly marking one of the first official endorsement deals for the late singer. Available through the Home Shopping Network, Scent Beauty, and even Walmart by mid-November. And fans are also thrilled to see the Best Man franchise back on screen, this time as a limited series debuting in December on Peacock. I just love the holidays. What are you most excited about this season? Tweet us to let us know at KBLA 1580, #KBlackMinuteHoliday.
Vote Heidi Feldstein Soto for LA City Attorney. Heidi is running to stop corruption at City Hall, to protect neighborhoods. The first woman ever elected LA City Attorney, Heidi will stand up for reproductive rights. That's why Heidi is the only candidate endorsed by the LA Democratic Party, Planned Parenthood, the LA Sentinel, and the LA Times. Vote Heidi Feldstein Soto for LA City Attorney. Paid for by Heidi Feldstein Soto for City Attorney 2022 General. Info available at ethics.lacity.org.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
Vice President of the San Pedro Wilmington, Palos Verdes Peninsula NAACP branch. I am supporting Daniel Sandoval for the Los Angeles City Council. Tim McCoster's campaign is using bullying and intimidating tactics against local businesses and local individuals who don't support him. We need a healer, not a divider. I am giving my full support to Daniel Sandoval for Los Angeles City Council and rescinding my endorsement for Tim McCoster.
Paid for by Sandoval for LA Community ID 145002.
Find a righteous rage and don't be afraid to say what you see. For KBLA Talk 1580.
Continue our conversation now with Michael T. Smith about American hypocrisy, where we, black folk, are concerned. You downloaded me on Kyrie. How are you processing this Kanye moment?
I love my brother. I heard from my brother. Kanye, to me, is, like Brother Chappelle, a prophetic voice that we need. I think one of the greatest tyrannies, I'm sure you're familiar with this much more than I am, the tyranny of, kind of inserting or withholding nuance, this kind of weaponized context. I think we've got to hear, especially from somebody like Kanye, we've got to try to hear beyond what he's saying to what he's trying to say. And I wish, again, he had some sort of prophetic mentor around him. Brother Chappelle, again, I wish he had some sort of prophetic mentor around him and say, look, we hear what you're saying, but the message, the method is kind of betraying the message. Kanye is going to bounce back, but violence is the way America works. There's never been any progress towards a fully realized equality and dignity for Black Americans apart from violence. Never has there been. Slavery was not resolved nonviolently. Schools were not integrated nonviolently. There's brand violence, economic violence, etc. And we really don't even know what conscience is anymore. We just know what brand violence and economic violence. Heineken in 2012, a dogfighting ring was shown with a Heineken banner over the dogfighting ring, and people absolutely freaked out and said, how dare you associate your brand with that? And man, I'm sorry, we didn't know. It turns out it was a concert that Heineken had promoted a month before that their banner was left up, and dogfighting came in after. And people jumped over themselves to distance their brand from dogfighting. But when it comes to the value of Black life, when it comes to the value and dignity of Black men and women, people jump through hoops to associate their brand with negative portrayals, hyper-criminalized, hypersexualized portrayals of Black men and women. And nothing is more blatant than what I said about Rick Ross in that TED Talk, that Reebok hired him because the hyper-criminalized perception is what they think of Blackness. And when 100,000 white women stood outside and said date rape is serious, it was like Reebok had values associated with date rape, but they were responding to economic violence, completely blind to the dignity of Black life. And Tavis, this sickness runs so deep. It's like if I said, hey, I'm bringing you water into the studio from Chernobyl. It's been a few decades. You think you want to drink it now? How many parts per million of the persuasion of the moral and sexual and impulse control of Black Americans? How deep does that superiority, how deep does that inferiority run? And so you can't even hear that they brought Rick Ross in to say, hey, man, this song about killing Black people is wonderful. Oh, the song about date rape is bad. We can't even hear that should not be the normal order of things. And it's that deep, deep, deep darkness that feeds this ongoing hypocrisy and the hypocrisy against Kanye reaction, et cetera. Because we weaponize nuance, we weaponize context, we weaponize police shooting videos where I tell the story I want to tell based on why didn't they show what happened before, or they showed enough, because I'm always inserting my racialized context, and you're not going to move forward out of the hypocrisy until you get to the recognition of that deep, deep darkness.
I'm not naive in asking this, but why, to your brilliant point, do you think violence has been our way?
Oh my God! Well, man. Okay, so here's the thing. So I don't know I'm not a history expert, but 700 documented uprisings of enslaved, of the idea of white supremacy and racial supremacy. To me, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If I say and build a narrative that Blacks are inherently violent, then it justifies my violence towards them. And if I set Blacks up to resist that violence, their resistance of that violence reinforces my prejudiced idea. I come from a theological position, which no person that comes from my position can accept any other explanation than all people are made in the likeness and image of God, which means if I see strategic violent poolings among some people, among certain people groups across generations, I have to step back and assume that the world in which we stand, the ground on which we stand, is not equal. But you will not get that on the right. You will only get on the right. Racism is a thing of the past. Slavery is a thing of the past. Stop blaming society. And what they're talking about is accountability, which when it comes to whoever shot P&B Rock, it has to be individual. It has to acknowledge the generations of toxic, fecal, so that's why I think violence is the default. I mean, it's nobody is denying that the rate among Blacks to whites in Chicago is 40 times that of Blacks. Nobody's denying that. But this is not self-originating. This is not occurring in a vacuum.
Yeah.
And, on the right, there's all these talks about, well, you can't guarantee equality of outcome. I give you can't guarantee equality of outcome. But sustained inequality of outcome over generations should also cause you to step back and question the equality of the starting line and the origination point. But we're not prepared to have those honest conversations because those can't go in tweets, those can't go in election speeches. And so, I was in the Smithsonian, and they had a poster the night before emancipation took place, and there was a senator that said, "I hope you all are ready for more rapes, more murders than you've ever had before when these black people are loose." And the narrative of black criminality and violence is so ingrained in American cultural ideas that is 160 years ago, still going on.
I hear you. Our remaining moments with Michael T. Smith when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
We don't try to be all things to all people. We just remain true to who we are. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
LA's next mayor, who can we trust to stand up for our community? The person who's always been there, Democrat Karen Bass. Unlike her opponent, Karen Bass has always been a Democrat, fighting for principles like fairness, justice, and equal rights. She's not a billionaire real estate developer who only comes around during election time. Karen Bass has never left our side or forgotten where she came from. Take it from someone who knows.
This is Stevie Wonder, and you know what? Today, there should be no confusion. Los Angeles needs real principled leadership. We need someone who is who they say they are, with or without a hot microphone. We need someone who has been consistent with who they are in principle, party affiliation, and government service. No surprises with Karen Bass. She is who she's always been, a real honest leader. Vote Karen Bass.
Paid for by Karen Bass for Mayor 2022 General. More information at ethics.lacity.org.
Power to the people. Say their names. Voter suppression takes many forms. Say their names. When you vote on or by November 8th, say their names, because they can't. Vote on or by November 8th. What's your excuse? Paid for by the African American Voter Registration Education and Participation Project.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
Conversations that matter. You're listening to Tavis Smiley on KBLA Talk 1580.
Got about 3 minutes left. 3 minutes left in this conversation with Michael T. Smith, which I've enjoyed immensely and been empowered by. Michael, we close where we began. That is noting that today, of course, is Election Day all across this country. My sense is that we will discover in the next 24 hours or so anew how divided this republic really is. I guess the exit question is whether or not this divisiveness, whether or not this hypocrisy that is ingrained, baked in our system, continues unabated in the months and years to come.
I'm an eternal optimist. I have hope. I don't know if that hope is realistic, but it keeps me moving. My gut is we're going to see a lot of the same old dysfunction today and tomorrow. But by 2024, I think we're going to be mobilized to see something really, really special. Whether I'm delusional, I don't know. But I have to believe it, and I have to hope for it. And I do hold out hope for 2024. I think we're going to see a more purple America, that the extremes that kind of alien we're growing weary of, and I'm hoping we move from a 4-party dysfunction to a 3-party solution. And I'm hopeful for that day. I'm hopeful for that day.
This audience knows I am not an optimist. I confess to being an eternal prisoner of hope, because optimism and hope are not the same thing for me. So I'm an eternal prisoner of hope. But since you went there, I'll follow you. You put your faith out front. I'm thinking of the song that says, "My hope is built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and His righteousness." I raised that song lyric only to ask you, on what is your hope built? Since you're hopeful that we may get some progress between now and 2024.
I have to believe that all of creation is working towards an end. That if there is an alpha, there must be an omega. And if the alpha is love, despite the growing pains, despite the difficulty, despite the death in the fall and winter that brings the new life in the spring, that we're moving forward. I happen to believe that all the cosmos is on a path that's across all religion, across irreligion, across red, yellow, brown, black, white, LGBTQIA. There is a hope for the cosmos, and that is what that if it originated in love, it's heading on a trajectory. It's not just out there flotsam and jetsam, and that is my hope. That is my absolute hope. That's where it's anchored.
I receive it. Powerfully put. Eloquently stated. His name is Michael T. Smith. If you're looking for this TED Talk we talked about today, that we wanted to sort of unpack in real time, it's called Black Murder is Normal. His name is Michael T. Smith. The second TED Talk he gave was called Why I Stopped Using the N-Word. So just Google the name, Michael T. Smith. You'll find the stuff we've been talking about in this hour. Michael, good to have you on the program. Thanks for downloading us. All the best to you and your family. I appreciate your time, sir.
Peace on you in every way. I love you, brother.
Love you back, man. Thank you for the time. Wow. A powerful 2 hours today. We started with Michael Steele in hour 1, went to Michael Smith in hour 2, and when we come forward, believe it or not, 2 more Smiths in hour 3. You can't plan this stuff, right? In our third hour, Pritchard Smith and John B. Smith, no relation to each other, no relation to Michael Smith, but full of Smiths around here today. In our next hour, we'll talk about a powerful new documentary called The Invaders. It's a powerful connection to Dr. King. I wrote about this in my King book, and I've been waiting for this documentary. It is narrated by Nas, and we'll tell you all about it when we come forward after news, traffic, and sports. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.